This is Julian Valderrama, and I'm the author of Blueprint for Immortality, the Quantum Code for Life Secrets to Success. In this riff, we're going to talk about evidence and the importance of communicating results. Based on the scientific method, the last and final step is for the one experimenting to honestly report on the findings, to properly describe the data and the cold, hard facts. It must be shown and described precisely from step 1, the question, to the hypothesis, and finally to the conclusion, what was happening and being observed. What does the scientific method have anything to do with the account of Moses? Also, what does the story of Moses have anything to do with the field of quantum physics and our personal success and that which we desire? It is of utmost importance that we realize that it has everything to do with everything. So the question here, was Moses a sort of scientist? Was his story essentially revealing that he was rational and logical? Let's briefly consider a small part of what is described as a very powerful moment in Moses' life. I would strongly encourage you to just stop listening at the moment, and at this point in time, go read the account of the story of Moses in the book of Exodus, specifically the 3rd and 4th chapter in their entirety. I might suggest that, take the story as an illustration as opposed to a real life example, so that we may take in what lessons we can gather and how they are practical in our life. So stop the audio right now and do that if you can. And if not, just continue listening and how the principles described therein are beneficial for us. Either way, let's briefly state the circumstances in which Moses is approached by the God of the Hebrews. Moses had ran away from Egypt, leaving prestige and position because he had committed murder. An Egyptian guard had abused a Hebrew slave, and Moses felt the need to avenge the abused man. Moses had grown up under the protection of royalty while watching his nation of Israel being oppressed by the Egyptians. The situation had gotten the best of him and made him react to this one act of oppression. Thus, Moses ended up killing the Egyptian guard. Obviously, he fled as a criminal and a murderer under Egyptian rulership and therefore avoided persecution. The morality of the situation will not be discussed, and it will be left up to the listener. Murder is obviously wrong, and the facts are just being stated for posterity. Moses, the convicted felon, had fled to a region where he was taken by a man named Jethro, who lived in the land of Midian with his 7 daughters. There, Moses married one of Jethro's daughters and became a shepherd. After some 40 years, he went to Horeb, which is referred to as the mountain of the true God. There he was approached by Jehovah, the God of the Hebrews, through an angelic representative, or so it says. And this is the interesting part. Moses listened attentively to the command from God to go free the Hebrews from another powerful god, Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. To the Hebrews and the Egyptians, it was obvious that Pharaoh's kingship was also supported by other more powerful gods than Pharaoh himself. Moses, in full honesty, asked this amazing question, quote unquote, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" Let's consider the importance of this question. Here is a convicted felon, an old man, a lowly shepherd in the land of Midian, who had ran away to avoid conviction from that most powerful nation of that known world. Also, according to God, who is denoting to the fact that his so-called chosen people are enslaved under another god, is promising to deliver them from slavery. Certainly, Moses' confidence in his God and in himself was at an all-time low. And this is incredibly relevant to our present day. And consider that we live in the information age. We are constantly bombarded with information that promises success and prosperity of all types. The ultimate advice on relationships comes from so-called experts in the fields of psychology, psychiatry, and medicine, as well as life coaches, and etc. The ultimate advice on how to make money comes from as many sources or more. Just Google how to be rich, how to be wealthy, how to be happy, how to be healthy, or how to, and you fill in the blank. We are then taken to hundreds of pages showing so-called reliable sources. Go to a library or a bookstore. There are massive and awe-inspiring amounts of books, magazines, reports, and different written or audio materials promising the same things. We are certainly not bashing anybody in particular, but it is important that we consider that getting exact information has become hard work, which takes enormous amount of time and effort. There are so many different opinions from so many different places about how to achieve success that we easily become confused without knowing who to listen to and whose advice we should take to heart. The question is, why should you, right now the listener, or if you're reading this book, continue to listen or read this book? And why should you even consider finishing listening to this book or read it? Do I, the author, have the evidence and the physical manifestation in my physical world? And do I have the results as suggested by the scientific method? And in essence, do I have what you want? Do I experience what you want to experience? These are really important questions. Think about it. Every day we are fed information and given advice and opinions by virtually everybody, including our own uncontrolled biased thoughts. We must ask the following questions from such sources. Do they all have the physical evidence for what they say is going to give us what we desire? This includes asking ourselves honestly, do I give advice when I don't personally have the evidence that what I'm saying works and gives results? Have I done it through the honest and proper experimentation of what it has been described as the truth about success from people who have done it? Do I give it to myself and others? Moses had it right. Who the heck was he to be taken on a task of that magnitude? I mean, really? A lowly shepherd taking away one of the most powerful economic forces under Pharaoh's control to his own detriment? Moses had every right to question God's decision of choosing him for such assignment. God let him ask his questions and gave him the freedom of speech. For that reason, please question everything and everyone. This teaches us that since Moses questioned God's judgment, then how much more should we question every thought that comes from out of people's mouths, whoever they are? Let's not suggest that we should be cynical and generally negative about information from others. There is plenty of instruction out there that we can access to get real life results. But are we aware enough to do our due diligence, do research, and ask questions tactfully with insight and discernment? If we want to learn how to cook, are we learning from a master chef or low-wage line cook at a restaurant? If we want to learn how to operate a business, are we learning from a business school, or are we learning from someone who has a profitable business? In both scenarios, you can learn but from whom in reality will you really learn the most and derive the most dividends? There is a saying that goes, be careful you're not taking weight loss advice from a fat person. A proverb by King Solomon says, the one walking with the wise will become wise. Spiritual leader Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33, quote unquote, do not be misled, bad associations spoil useful habits. Our parents always told us not to hang out with the wrong crowd because they were afraid we would turn out just like them. This is why through this book, it will be examined why and how quantum physics relates to the workings and mechanics of our brains. We will examine that it teaches us that it is almost impossible to not be affected by others' negative or positive influence. This is good because through reverse osmosis, we can become successful. This means, then, that by having positive people around each one of us, we can ultimately become just like them, successful. Aristotle Onassis, one of the richest men in the world, was quoted saying that if he ever became flat broke, he would just go and be in the presence of wealthy people. Doing that in itself would restore his wealth. By this point, we must readily admit that the advice is not only logical, reasonable, but also practical. And we are also getting stronger validation from people who are ultra successful by definition. Everyone who is quoted in this book has been, or still is, an authoritative and reliable source. They are people we may know in one way or another. And more importantly, we know they are people who have evidence in their lives, which proves that they know how to achieve successful results, and not just know about, but also know by definition. Their information will be proven as timeless. Like the law of gravity, it always works. So in all honesty, if we were to break it down, I would suggest that the best way to go about getting information to be successful is defined by this quote by New York Times bestseller. Quote, listen to people who have what you want and have been where you are. Those who have the physical manifestations that what they are saying works. A quote by Kevin Trudeau from Your Wish is Your Command. And please do not kill the messenger. Let's go back to the question. Do I, the author, have the evidence that you wish to see? The answer is maybe. Why maybe? I can say I have great measure of success in certain areas of my life, but not in others. I may suggest it is also irrelevant and allow me to prove it to you, the reader, and explain why. First and foremost, I promise to quote and derive sources and material from people who have or have had ultra success. Second, it is all based on foundational knowledge from experts in the field of quantum physics, acquired through the scientific method. Therefore, I am not pointing to my success as it stands right now, but that of others through empirical evidence. Third, there is the thought that even though a person may be financially ultra successful, they may be miserable when it comes to their health or happiness, or even their personal relationships. You could learn how to have a great golf game from Tiger Woods, but not necessarily how you can have a tremendous success from his basketball skills. You will go to Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan for that training. Therefore, I only wish to portray information objectively. As we should all consider, this is what the current understanding is by the most authoritative sources thus far. So I would suggest that you continue reading or listening and examine this book as a condensed form of about 20 years of research and personal study. Okay, this is the end of this riff. I highly suggest, if you have not already done so, to support this channel by buying this book that is being read to you. Life is a Game, the Quantum Code for Life's Principles for Success. and my previous volume, Blueprint for Immortality, the Quantum Code for Life's Secrets to Success. Also, go ahead and put a like on this video if you feel it is valuable. Also, share this with loved ones, friends, and this will help raise awareness of this kind of life-changing knowledge. So consider that, because what you do for others, you do for yourself. What you fail to do for others, you also fail to do for yourself. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. And also go ahead and put a comment below if you feel you have any questions, comments, or observations. I certainly love to read that from you. Let me know, what did you like best and what you got out of it, of what you heard today. And don't forget, life is a game, and this is the quantum code for life's principles for success.